that you can make peace by making your body be calm. If you need some space, you just scoot. Settle and quiet when you're listening to other people. Just being calm. You can be free to be creative. Family.
Harmony. A state of enlightenment. For me personally, like being asleep, like I think it's probably one of the more peaceful things you can do.
Whenever you get to do exactly what you love.
Community.
Being content.
Not being afraid to go where you want to go. Do what you want to do.
Fulfilled.
The element of being nice to someone. That you have space for yourself. Pretty. Pillows and blankets and beds. School. It will look great. Be quiet. So being able to agree on things and compromising. Taking care of your friends. Probably treating others the way that you would want to be treated. People playing.
Setting aside differences to come together for the greater good.
It would look like a place that had direct communication as a real basis.
Really big trees. I feel like trees make people nicer.
People think about other people before they say stuff. Just being chill with one another.
Respecting everyone's opinion and not judging anyone.
Holy Cabelli! I just feel so loved here, and it's a big community.
Shown you, O man. He has shown you what is good. And what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, and to love kindness, and to walk humbly, walk
Friends, I want to share with you that sometimes I mix my words up. And sometimes that's unfortunate. Things like when we're typing, it's unfortunate that I type undeserved for underserved. That's unfortunate. I'm thankful for spell check. Another way that words can get kind of complicated, when I was in public accounting and I was auditing a casino in the Dominican Republic. How fun was that? I had the unfortunate skill of not speaking Spanish, but I had enough that I could understand, and I had a translator, but I was trying. And they kept saying, individuals kept saying, gracias. And I thought I was saying, you're welcome, or think nothing of it, or whatever. And Carlos turned to me, the translator, the one I was working with, Carlos turned to me and said, "You keep telling them of nothing." I wasn't saying it right because I didn't understand it necessarily. I didn't embrace the language. I didn't understand those little nuances necessarily. And I find today, as I'm thinking about these words of peace, when I look back to the history in the Hebrew Bible of the term peace, we hear two different words. One is shalom, which we tend to translate at peace, but it's really much deeper than that. Shalom also means completeness and wholeness and an attitude of being at peace, but being at whole with God and with each other. And then moving into the New Testament with the Greek translation, eirene, peace. We'll talk a little bit about that today. And what we thought we'd do, instead of just someone, talking and instructing, I asked Scott and Maggie if they'd come up and just talk a little bit about this sermon series. How does this sermon series, where we've been focused on different practices of the different practices that we have here in the United Methodist Church, in our church, how does what we've learned, what does it have to do with shalom and wholeness and completeness? So thanks, Scott and Maggie, for the last minute change on Friday afternoon.
That's why we're a team.
Anything
this.
for
Man,
you.
I love these two. I really do. So just starting out, this worship service has, run the gamut on a lot of things, and I know that there were a lot of lessons that were taught. But baptisms, communion, what we mean by biblical truth, the afterlights, saints, and then last week, chosen family, which was a great one. What are you guys hoping that people take away in as a whole with this sermon series?
So I think for myself, and as we were kind
See,
of,
they don't know how long I can hold awkward silence. That's my superpower. Go ahead, Maggie.
That is not your superpower, Scott.
Go ahead, Maggie.
I think as we were talking about this particular sermon series and what we wanted, what we had hoped that it would accomplish, right, was that it would not answer questions for any of us, but it would open up more just deeper thought about these things, right? And I know that for myself, I've had those moments for all of these things of thinking about, okay, well, what does this actually really mean for me? How do I actually really experience this? And so I'm hoping people can just take the things that we've talked about and just find deeper understanding, deeper questions to grow a little bit more.
That's good. Thank you.
I think one thing that I've been grateful to hear is that the theme of integrating faith into the fullness of life, because I think that sort of as the title of the series indicates, beginnings and endings. Sometimes we think of church and faith as that thing that pops up along the way, but not fully integrated into life, into daily living. Paul famously says at one point in one of his letters that he prays without ceasing, which I think is a pretty boastful claim to make on Paul's part. But I think what he is getting at when he says to pray without ceasing is not to be constantly reciting the Lord's Prayer or something like that, but to live a life of faith to where you can't really see where the life and where the faith stops and starts, right? And that's what I think the hope for me is in my own faith. Of course, I fall short of that frequently, but to try not to see my life in sort of binaries or in dualities or in either ors, but to see life and faith as fully intermixed and intermingled. Intertwingled's not a word. I just made it up.
Good enough.
Good.
And that's where I'm going to stop my comments. Yep.
Yeah. I like what you said there, Scott, that by asking the questions and feeling free to ask those questions of each other, of any of us, or talk about them at your family dinner, then we also internalize some of these questions and some of this life of the beginnings and endings. And so it doesn't really have an ending. It's a circular that we continue to ask and ask and ask and find out what season we're in. So in that video that we had, weren't they cute? In that video today, we heard from a lot of children and teachers and at the school about peace. And they make it sound so simple, don't they? They make it sound so simple. But it seems the older we get, the more we move away from those simple answers. So I'm just wondering, is wholeness and completeness and peace really that simple, and we just muck it up, or are the children naive, or what happens there that we're not always at peace?
I honestly think I keep waiting for you to just. I'm just gonna not. That's fine. I think the kids have it right. I honestly do. If you just sit down and talk with a kid, like if you have ever talked with a kid about something like this, like they just know, they just got it together, right? And it really is that simple, right? Even asking our own kids, how do they experience peace? Where do they see peace? It really is just that simple. And I think as we get older, things become less black and white, whether that's good or bad, right? But I think the way you put it, I think sometimes we can just muck it up and make it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. Yeah.
In terms of being at peace with yourself, my daughter Andy is here today, and she doesn't become someone different depending on which setting she's in, right? She's 5.5, more like 3/4, but she'll remind you it's 5.5. And Andy at school and Andy at church and Andy at home, and no matter where she is, like, it's the same Andy. You're not getting versions of a person. She hasn't begun to compartmentalize herself in the way that adults and teenagers, tend to. We sort of learn those behaviors. And I think there's a certain beauty to that, right? And I'd catch myself like coaching her out of that habit, and I'll catch myself teaching her how to compartmentalize herself, and I stop and go, okay, should I really be doing that, or should she be teaching me something here about what it means to be a full whole person and not have to give different environments a different version of who I am. And in terms of just personal relations, last night we had some friends over for dinner, and Andy and her friend had gotten into a little bit of a tiff, and I could tell something was wrong with Andy. We were sitting down. They had gone back to their house for a moment to check on a dog. And anyways, while her friend was gone, Andy just could not even eat her food. And I said, Andy, what's going on? She goes, I just really need to apologize to Jimmy. I'm going to go in my room and wait for her. And then when she gets in, if you could tell her to go to my room, and then we can have some time and we can talk it out. And I'm like, girl, whoa. It's you and Jimmy. I promise your relationship is going to survive the last 10 minutes. I really think it's going to be okay. But just like her desire to make sure that relationship was made right. Does she inherit some of her dad's anxieties? Unfortunately, it appears so. But there's also a certain amount of beauty in that, I think, as well.
Yeah. I think the fact that it's, when we think of this feeling of shalom and being in shalom with each other, we'll have it, again, internalized, that, you felt like you weren't at peace. And how do we use the lessons that we've had the last 6 weeks to bring about peace? I think about the Sunday that we spoke about the Wesleyan quadrilateral, the big words and everything. But really, we were talking about how do you reconcile and ask yourself questions and use your experiences and find ways within yourself to have wholeness and shalom. But there's one thing that's important here. When I started thinking about shalom and I went to the Bible to say, what is it that I want to communicate about shalom? I went to a very common benediction that you may have heard. The Lord bless and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and bring you shalom. And I read it probably 3 or 4 times. And the 4th time I read it, I thought, man, there's a lot of you in there. There's a lot of you. And there can be this mistake sometimes, can go to the extreme that shalom is just between us and God, me and God. That, God grant you peace and grant you this. So is peace only about an individual relationship with God, or is there more to it? Is shalom more to it?
Yeah. So when you sent that question over, I laughed because this is how we close our time together on Sunday nights with the students. And this is how I closed my time when I was growing up in youth as well.
Me too.
But I think peace is very much a communal thing, right? And I want to invite each of you, if you have not heard students say this with one another, I want to invite you to come on a Sunday evening and come hang out with us and hear it, because it is like the most powerful thing you will ever hear. Because the way they do it, they say, the Lord bless you and keep you. And so like it takes forever because the yous last about 3 seconds long, each one of them. But it is this community thing where you are feeling blessed by one another. You are feeling blessed by being a part of this community, and you know that you are not alone in this journey of life or faith, but that you are doing this together with your people, with your family. And so I think it is a very silly thing to elongate the you, but it really just kind of hits home that fact that we are not doing this alone. It is not simply just a me and God thing, but it is a we thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if we could leverage our Texanness and instead make it, the Lord bless y'all and keep y'all. Because, in English, we don't have a great word that means that sort of inclusive you, that communal you. But we do in y'all, right? And so many of the yous in Scripture are actually y'alls. But I guess, I don't know, Bible editors don't like including those colloquialisms. So I think it's important to remember that it's hard to separate you from y'all, right? And we can try to, again, compartmentalize, try to separate and detach. And I think so much of the Christian journey is seeing less you and seeing more y'all, right? And seeing that inherent connectedness.
Yeah, and I'm thinking back to the sermon series that we had, where this is a blessing and as well as a benediction. And when we talk about the Lord bless you and keep you, it's generational, isn't it? It's not just those who are there at that time who hear that blessing. It's something that we can carry with us to share blessings with others. It's something that came before us. There's something that connects us together when we talked about the saints Sunday. And we talked about what a saint is, and that it's not just those who have gone before, that it is those who are living now, that we share in this shalom together. And so keeping with this benediction from the book of Numbers, I landed on this, and give you shalom. So the question I wrote down was, how are we given shalom? Is it a gift? Is it something that we have to receive, or how are we given shalom? Scott, I'm going to let Maggie not do it and call on you first.
Yeah, I think frequently we have to be given shalom, because sometimes again we're not islands unto ourselves, and so trying to find it as individuals can be difficult or nearly impossible. I think about as someone who battles depression and anxiety, how frequently Reagan, my wife, has had to give me shalom, right? Whether that's through the question of kind of like me asking Andy over dinner last night, what's really going on? Reagan asking me, late at night when, it's about time for bed, hey, you've been really quiet, what's really going on? I think sometimes those invitational questions, those are ways that we can be given shalom simply by being able to speak out loud our lack of it, right? I think we're sort of trained and instructed to have it all together and to pretend like everything's okay. And the honest truth is, it rarely is. Being able to say that part out loud, I think, it allows us to move closer to then finding the shalom that we may be looking for. But Lord, it's a lot more, it's easier to accomplish when there's someone who's willing to hold that space with you.
Ditto. Can I do that?
You can.
Boo!
No. I mean, I think it is a gift. I think it's a beautiful reminder. I think it's something that we live in daily, right? Very similarly, like on days when I'm struggling to really find that peace and really find that calm and that wholeness, there are people in my life who remind me of that it is mine already, right? And to help me find ways to enter back into that space. Because I think it is a space that we very often forget that we can just be in, right? And that because of things going on in life, we step out of it. And so sometimes we need that little nudge from our friend, from our loved one to kind of push us back into that space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like this word given can, you tend to go towards gift. This is a gift that we've been given, the opportunity to be in shalom with God and with each other and with community. It's a gift that we can accept and we can work toward. It's a feeling, it's just that feeling. Steve's father's family is from Lansing, Iowa, which is about the size of my fist. And I haven't been there in years. But when I go, it's one place that Steve says, I know that within a day, you'll be ready to share. He doesn't say it like this, but you're at peace. You get to vacation mode faster there than any other place. And it's because of being out in nature. It's because of the purity of being right on the Mississippi River. Just all of that. And once you realize that you have it for yourself, you start to share it with others. It's not a gift that we keep. It's a gift that we can share to help others bring that wholeness and completeness and feeling of peace with them, with others. And so as I turn to some other passages, we've been saying a lot of this lately, Scott and I, in our memorial services, but John 14:27, where Jesus says, peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. That gift again, it's a gift of peace. And then in Matthew 5:9, which is part of the Beatitudes and the Sermon on the Mount, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. And when I read these two and I wrote them down and I read them over and over and over, I stopped thinking about that individual piece, and I started much more of thinking being in shalom with community, with each of us. So I'm curious for you, seeing different things. The question, where or how have you seen or encountered shalom or peace through Arapahoe for each other, or even for the greater community around Arapahoe? Where do you see shalom in community here?
Yeah. I love just the deeper understanding and meaning and knowing of shalom, right? It is more than just like peace. It's that wholeness, that connection. And as family pastor, I get to see a lot of it in the midst of chaos and experience it in the midst of chaos. But being able to see our children take care of one another. Even just this morning, we had one of our kids saying that she was afraid of something. And then one of the other kids said, oh, well, I did this and this was my experience and you're going to be okay, right? Like being able to share their experiences together. or with our students. I shared this with our staff last week that being able to have just sometimes those moments of like deep belly laughter with your people, like those are moments of shalom that I have experienced here at Arapahoe, specifically with our children and our students, but really just seeing it in the ways that our church comes together and experiences life with one another, but also sees who are we missing from our table and how can we invite them in and how can we tell them they are welcomed here and wanted here and they are already a part of our family. And so we want to open our doors up to you, right? That it is not just this internal we community, but it goes beyond this building and beyond these doors, that we extend that community and that we, yeah.
Yeah, we're a community that, in the way I've experienced it, just so wired for connection. The people who seem to be drawn to this place because the culture runs deep. I like to brag on Arapahoe because I say I can take none of the credit because I've been here for 16 months, and most of that time has been during a pandemic when we couldn't even meet in person. And yet the culture here is one of such deep, meaningful connection, not just friending each other on Facebook and posting happy birthday on the wall or whatever, but truly caring enough to hold prayers for one another. The folks that have come to memorial services for individuals that surprised me because I thought, I didn't know that they knew them. The level of surprising connection in this place. The fact that if you do visit in person, God bless you. I hope you're extroverted because you're going to have some people say hello to you, and that's such a wonderful thing too. But then folks that are online finding meaningful connection. Those of you who are, at home right now or wherever you are, getting to connect with people on Zoom for coffee and connection stuff and seeing through their eyes what I've seen, right? They can sense the culture and the warmth of a people, even in a digital space. And so that's been really exciting to see that grow in a new way and to reach people that we probably would not have reached before, because now they can experience that warmth from a place that maybe feels safer and is a little less scary than driving onto a church parking lot that you've never visited before. I find that to be very powerful. And it just continues to reaffirm that first sign that I saw back when the pandemic was first hitting and we had the yard signs that said, "We belong to each other." That was sort of my introduction to who we were as AUMC. And I've seen that sign proven true. I've seen that sign proven true.
I've been associated with Arapahoe since 1996. I had a little 5-year break where I was appointed to another church, but I came back and I've mentioned that same community, different vibe. And what this has to do with Shalom is that this community that comes on Sunday or that comes on Sunday afternoons through the youth or whatever, they have accepted that gift. And the in-betweens that we've been talking about, the different things, it's not a set of rules. It's not a checklist of, let me get it right so that my in-between time is right. It's a feeling and a relationship that we have with each other. And as I mentioned with the word, how do I give it to you? God gives this grace to us. We give it to each other. And what's really, really great about this particular community is that you bust at the seams and give it to everyone. You give that feeling of shalom and you help them, everyone through their journey. And so how do I see shalom in our community? I tear down the walls here and I see the community outside. I see people coming and speaking for the first time at a Richardson Trustee Board meeting for the school district. I see reaching out to other churches in the area to join us at Dobie for sharing what will be a meal, food that can be turned into a meal. I see individuals on Facebook, on social media, taking pictures of delivering food with Network. I see individuals in what started last year sometime, driveway meetings on a Friday afternoon, just getting together and being together. What's important about these beginnings and endings and in between and how we find shalom is that we keep practicing the journey. We acknowledge that each of us is on that journey towards wholeness. And we're going to get there and then flip, it's going to go away sometimes. But the fact that we help each other along in our journey, that we help each other along. We talked in Seekers this morning about covenant, that we're in this unspoken covenant together to continue our journey, not just with those who show up on Sunday, but with anyone in our general area and even the world. So I hope that you've learned a little bit about the wholeness of shalom being a feeling of peace, not just for yourself, but for a whole community being in relationship with each other. So with that, I'll ask you guys to go, and with that, we'll say shalom and continue our worship.
Let's pray. Gracious God, as we prepare ourselves this week for Thanksgiving and the beginning of a holiday season, as we gather around tables, perhaps with friends and family, or perhaps by ourselves, as we undoubtedly gather in the weeks to come and notice that there are chairs emptier than last year, God, in those moments when we can believe the lie that we are alone, would you, in your own way, break through with a light of hope, even if it's just a pinprick, and remind us of that greatest news of all, which is we are never alone. God, would you invite us into that shalom, sense of wholeness? Not that we are without any pain, not that we are without any loss or any grief, but rather we are the loss and the pain and the grief and the joy and the laughter. We are ourselves and we are each other. We are individuals and we are community. God, would you invite us into that truth, that you came not just for one, but for all. And you so lead us to a life that is not just for one, but for all. God, as your Spirit leads us to invite strangers around tables this week and in the weeks to come, grant us the power to follow those nudges. God, for those who don't have food to eat, we not only pray for them, we also pray that you would inspire us to be the hands and feet to carry the loaves and fishes. God, allow us to be the kinds of servants of Jesus that seek wholeness not just for ourselves, but for our community, our neighbors, and our world. We do these things in the image of Christ, the one who brings wholeness to us all, as we pray the prayer that he taught us to pray, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Friends, we want to invite you to a couple opportunities of community this coming up season. If you are looking for a devotional during Advent, we'd love to invite you to our Advent worship, Songs of the Waiting, devotions inspired by hymns of Advent. And it's going to complement our worship series really well, Music of Advent. And so we want to invite you. It's going to start on December 2nd at 7 p.m. via Zoom. And so if you are interested in being a part of this devotional time with one another, you can go to our website, arapahoeumc.org/connect, to find how to get the Zoom link and how to find the book to be able to walk through it together as we journey through Advent. Also, we have our wonderful Frosty the Snowman drive-through and concert coming up. If you were not able to see last year, we created these beautiful giant storybook boards that were out in our lawn of Frosty the Snowman. And it is a drive-through, so families, really anyone of all ages, you can come and drive through, read the story of Frosty with your family. That is from 2 to 8 on December 4th. And then at 2 o'clock, Malin Taylor, who has been here in worship with us many times, sharing her beautiful gift of music, wants to put on a Christmas concert for all to come and enjoy. So come and bring your blanket, your chair, bundle up, and come hang out with us here on the lawn for some Christmas music, and then for Frosty the Snowman.
I want to say thank you to everyone with us today, both in person and online, for your continued generosity. I want to call our attention to the end of the year. As you may know, nonprofits and churches alike receive the large bulk of our donations in the last 6 weeks of the year. So there's a reason why you see so many nonprofits and churches reaching out to you right now. And I want to say that Arapahoe is able to do the kind of ministries that Kathy referenced in the message today. We're able to tear down the walls and be out in the community and to say yes to so many, meeting so many needs because of our financial strength that you allow us to operate out of. And so as we come to the end of the year, I just want to say thank you for your continued generosity. And as you consider end of year giving, I want to say thank you for your generous donations to Arapahoe, and know that every dollar given here does matter. If you're looking for a fun way to give this end of the year, Giving Tuesday has become a new kind of cultural touchstone on Tuesday, November 30th. That's the Tuesday after Black Friday. There's Black Friday and then Cyber Monday and now Giving Tuesday, right? Because in the midst of all the consumerism and shopping and all that good stuff, we also want to remember to center ourselves on generosity as we enter into this Christmas season. And so you can find the information about Giving Tuesday on our website, and that's really a day that we just choose to sort of kick off and start this end of year giving season. So if you'd like to make a gift today, if you've never given before, or you'd like to set up recurring gifts, you can do that on our website. That's the best way, at arapahoeumc.org/donate. You can also always give a check via the mail. Our address that you see on the screen. You can also give via text by texting the word give to the number that you see on the screen. So once again, thank you so much for allowing us to be a church that says yes to making our communities and the people within them whole.
And now, as beloved children of God that are seeking to live together in shalom, will you please stand as we sing together our final hymn, number 2172, in the Faith We Sing hymnal, We Are Called.
To live in the freedom of the city
Amen. And please be seated.
Siblings in Christ, may you go from here knowing that the in-betweens will make you whole. The involvement that you have in the lives of others, the bonding that you have with each other, and the relationship that you have with God. All of that will give you shalom. And now if you'll join with me, I've asked Maggie and Scott, join with me in the blessing. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you
you
and give you peace. Shalom.
Amen.